Welcome viewers to Historical Journeys. Archaeologists are digging preliminary trenches of a site called Hill at close to a Belgian village called Witch 8. It was the scene of ferocious fighting in World War I indeed. This piece of land atop the Messines Ridge changed hands no fewer than 4 times during that conflict. As the researchers cautiously probed the earth, it soon clear that they're at an exceptionally well-preserved World War I site, but they also uncover sobering evidence of the war's stark brutality. When archaeologists dug in Flanders fields, they made a sobering discovery beneath the soil. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It only takes a second, and you won't miss any of our future videos. Let's get started. Today, the town of Witch, concealed in the Belgian locale of Flanders, is a serene rustic town set and moving open country. Yet, in the long periods of the Second Great War, this country little turned into a horrendous front line that saw unpleasant battling among English and French powers and the German trespassers. The Germans overran Witch help from the get-go in the conflict, truth be told. Minimal over 2 months after the Second Great War, threats had begun toward the start of August 1914. The Germans had cleaned out English and French protectors off of their situations around Witch 8. Without a doubt, German powers prevailed with regards to holding on to the length of the Messines edge, a decisively significant level that directed the encompassing Flanders farmlands. After the Second Great War finished in the Butcher in Flanders was not anymore the war zones around which shade were lowered by soil. As the years went by, what had occurred at the slope at site somewhere in the range of 1914 and 1918 was transferred to the past, lost in the fogs of time. However, at that point, just about 100 years after the fact, engineers obtained a real estate parcel close to Wedge formed, determined to fabricate new lodging there. As a matter of fact, their arranged building site was right on slope at by then. Nonetheless, Belgian guidelines connecting with building undertakings and prehistoric studies became possibly the most important factor. At the point when another development project is arranged, the engineer is expected to embrace an archaeological study of the proposed region. For this situation, a specialist called Simon Verda, Jim was brought in to make a primer study of the sloped area, and what Verda, Jim, and his group found during the underlying examination in 2015 surprised them. They dug shallow fundamental channels to survey what could lay secret under the Flanders turf. It immediately became obvious that they were at the site of a significant, the Second Great War German cautious situation on slope ad, and taking into account it was exceptionally old, the arrangement of channels and shelters seemed to be incredibly very much staved. Verda Jim was quick to see this site appropriately uncovered. Nonetheless, the designers were simply ready to spend a restricted sum on paleohistory. This would imply that any examination would be substantially less exhaustive than what Verda Jim had as a top priority. So if he somehow happened to accomplish his point of a full removal, where was the cash to come from? Verda Jim thus went to see one of the engineers addressing the German Telecaster Deutsche Welle. In July 2018, Verda Jim recollected his gathering. I requested that he give me additional opportunity to check whether I could find evidence he reviewed. Fortunately, the engineer consented to freeze development movement for the occasion. In any case, the clock was ticking, and afterward Verda Jim concocted a propelled thought. A wide range of undertakings were falling back on crowdfunding to fundraise. Why should the Second Great War archaeological dig take a similar course to raise subsidizes it hadn't been finished previously? However, doubtlessly it merited an attempt. So Verda Jim, collaborated by war zone master Peter Doyle and German scientist Robin Schaffer, set up a Kickstarter page. The Kickstarter page pronounced, "With your help, we intend to exhume the site and uncover the front line to expand how we might interpret the Channel War and of the ones who battled there before the site is lost to lodging improvement." As a matter of fact, the Allure had raised in excess of 200,000 well in overabundance of its objective of exactly 160,000. Near 3,000 individuals had contributed with vows, huge and little, and the Allure had gotten assets in alternate ways too, including all that from offering chances to be a prehistorian at slope promotion to selling shirts. So the slope promotion site was saved and the undertaking could go on, which it without a doubt did in April 2018. What was most likely the first crowdfunding appeal for a paleohistory project had been an extraordinary achievement, and presently will investigate exhaustively what the uncovering uncovered, including some stunning proof of the butcher of close quarters conflict. However, first let's figure out more about what really occurred at the harshly challenged slope during the Second Great War. Before the repulsiveness of the Second Great War meddled in 1914, the land around Wichita along the Messines edge, where slope promotion is found, was quiet farmland. Without a doubt, a wooden fabricated factory remained there. However, that was all to change when the English and French laid out cautious situations along the Messines Ridge. The Germans went after from October 20, 1914. Following a couple of long stretches of harsh battle, the German warriors unstuck the English and French, getting the Messines Ridge, including the place of misery at it, which formed a significant part of the safeguard around which English fighters called White Sheet had tumbled to the main London Scottish regiment that had just barely come to the front. On 31 October, the main London Scottish was shipped off, helped the 4th Rangers Unit, which was hanging tight around, which helped the Scots set up on the level of the edge under weighty fire. They hung on against rehashed German assaults as the night progressed, yet in the long run, after close quarter battle, they were driven once again at the expense of exactly 400 dead and injured. The Germans presently held the essential levels of the chaos in flexible wedge form, which managed the cost of them continuous perspectives across foe lines. This piece of the Western Front was to stay pretty much static for the following more than 2 years. That span permitted the Germans to assemble an intricate arrangement of channels and underground dugouts. Furthermore, from 1916, the English were at that point wanting to hold on to back the Messines Ridge and slope at the initial segment of the arrangements to retake, which included a modern mine activity. Sappers dug burrows through the Flanders mud the entire way to the German positions, tunneling their direction at the profundity of around 100 feet underneath the surface. The work was intense, with the territory including different water tables, excavators from Canada, New Zealand and Australia, as well as those from England, worked underneath the surface. Be that as it may, the Germans mounted a counter-assault the day after the English capture of the Messines Ridge. As a matter of fact, in spite of the fact that they were effectively opposed, more modest German sardists went on until the center of June, however failed miserably. The time had come to count up the setbacks on each side. Bizarrely, for the Second Great War assault, the safeguards had fallen off. More regrettable, German misfortunes remained at exactly 25,000. The comparing English figure was around 17,000. Besides, the Germans later got back to what little was left of which conceal about a year after the fact, in the German Army's significant spring hostile of April 1918. It prevailed with regards to wresting back control of the town. It was September before the English figured out how to retake the town for the last time. And this time they got help from American troopers too, and by then, the finish of the Second Great War was only weeks away. So as we've seen, which help had seen a progression of serious fights. However, it had likewise been a side involved for almost 3 continuous years by the Germans, permitting them to construct a broad, cautious fort there. Furthermore, those 2 variables made it an enticing area for prehistoric studies. Without a doubt, this was something that Simon Jim had clarified on the expectation slope at undertaking site. On the site Jim made sense of as a site that was under danger from improvement. Paleohistory was essential. However, its uncommon importance was distinguished by fundamental examination, which its uniqueness, and of the phenomenal protection of its covered archaeological relics. Truth be told, the site has been portrayed as the primary universal conflict's Pompeii slope promotion. The archaeologists before long found has a complicated assortment of channels. Also, this mirrored the way that the site, which covers almost 3 sections of land, had changed hands so often, and one component specifically contributed significantly to the locale's remarkable degree of conservation. A huge extent of the area had at any point been put under the furrows since the Second Great War finished up in 1918, in light of the fact that various protectors and aggressors had involved the site so often during the Second Great War. While some channels had plainly had a place with the Germans, others were challenging to distinguish. A number seemed to have been dug by the French, likely in 1914, at the hour of the principal fight at Slope when the Germans held onto it. The most undeniable proof for this was the presence of French little arms, weapons, and different relics that rose up out of Flanders earth when the specialists painstakingly dove into it. Incorporated a water bottle in blue polish, has given to English province fighters, and an anno pocket. There was likewise an impactful sign of the ordinary mankind of those who'd battled about Slope 80 as a wrecked brush, plainly engraved with the bogus commitment tough. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay updated with our latest videos, subscribing is the way to go. Just click that red button below and become a part of our channel family.